Guys, what's going on? Welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and in this episode, we're talking about one of my favorite things, new arrivals from Imprint Films out of Australia. Now, if you're paying attention, if you're watching this when this first goes up, it's only been maybe 7 or 8 days since the last Imprint video. I think what happened was the holidays slowed things down. They kind of backed up in Australia on the tarmac there. Now the holidays are over and there's like, go, get them out. So all these imports are showing up fast and furious. And these arrived on a Friday. Again, if you're watching this when this goes up, just this past Friday, it was a cold, wet, rainy, snowy, sleety kind of a weekend. And I had plans that I was like, I'm shelving them and I'm watching Imprint. So over the course of between Friday and Monday, I watched all 8 titles. We have covered it, so we're up to number 101 now. We've covered every single one of these. 101 titles here at Serial at Midnight. There's a playlist with all the Imprint coverage, even the TV stuff. Space 1999, Hammer House of Horrors. We've covered all of it, so I'll link to that playlist. You can't, if you want comprehensive coverage on Imprint, Serial at Midnight has been there since the beginning, so check out our coverage for that. I'll also say all 101 of those have been watched and reviewed on my Region A locked player. So I've never had a problem with region locking. People always ask that. I'm saying it right here at the top. Guys, let's dive into the releases themselves because I've watched them all. Oh, I've got opinions. I'll also say this as I hold up the Parallax View. I'm also going to say this. This may be my favorite wave of Imprint titles to date. This one really hits me right where I live. It hits me at the center of my interest. I think we've got 4 50s titles, 3 60s titles, and a 70s title. This is the 70s title. Westerns, Western noir genre stuff. I mean, it's such an eclectic mix, but I think it's my favorite wave so far. Let's talk about the Parallax View. So this is a political, it's not just political, it's a paranoid thriller from the pinnacle of paranoid thrillers, 1974. From a time when we had, there were assassinations left and right, the rise of the faceless corporation. We look back on it and it almost seems like we were so paranoid, reasonably, like arguably, justifiably so, right? We don't have these assassinations now, but we do have the corporations. Like everything we were worried about. It's so interesting because like some of it came true, some of it didn't, but we're more paranoid than we've ever been. And there's a special feature talking about that I want to talk about here. But Warren Beatty is the star here. It's such an unusual entry in the paranoid thriller cycle because it's detached. It's quiet. Warren Beatty, right? He's not a big actor. He's a very minimalist actor. Doesn't raise his voice. So it's a different take, and I really like it because of those things. It's not a loud movie. There's not a lot of car chases. There's not a lot of of action stuff. This is like your death comes quietly and it comes from the shadows, not straight on. Comes at a distance. So I've actually done a full review for this. You guys know I like to have these conversations, but I also like to do the actual review for CerealAtMidnite.com. So if you want to know, if you like my opinions and you trust my opinions, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Check out my actual reviews at CerealAtMidnite.com. I'm posting, the goal is daily. Sometimes it's twice a day, but I try to put something new up, a written review like at least once a day. So check that out. We will have deeper, more meaningful conversations about the actors, the filmmakers, the cinematography, the composers, putting these in the context of when they were made, how they relate to other similar movies. So let me show you this. So this says, people are going to be like, well, didn't the Criterion Collection put that out? They did in the United States. Now Australians don't have to import. This is for Australia. The Imprint is an Australian label. Now they don't have to import that. By the way, Australia is a huge market for us, a huge audience for us. Hello to Australia. Good day to Australia. Here's I'll hold this up while I talk to you about the special features. It's a 4K restoration. That's the same transfer that's on the Criterion Collection edition. Audio commentary by Kevin Lyons. Audio commentary by film critic and podcast producer Blake Howard. Kim Newman on the Parallax View and conspiracy thrillers. I love that special feature. I'm going to tip a little bit. I'm going to be transparent with you a little bit. Video essays are fun. I enjoy them for what they are, but I prefer when smart people just sit like I do. It's my style, right? To just sit and talk to you as I drop the case. I like when like Kim Newman always just sits and talks. and he can talk at length. He's got his outline, right? He's got his notes that he's got to work from, bullet points. But I just like the conversational aspect of that. And he brings us from the beginning of the conspiracy movie all the way through this movie, and then traces it to like, where did they go? What happened to them? And his conclusion is so interesting to me. Matthew Sweet, not the musician, but the film critic, on the Parallax View, and then Witness to a Conspiracy. That's a video essay by Chris O'Neill. We move on to it's an incredible movie, Outrage. This is 1950. Well, there's a lot of conversations about, representation and all these different things. I want to point this out. 1950. This is a movie about rape and the consequences of rape. Made in 1950, co-written. She wrote it with her husband. Ida Lupino co-wrote this with her husband. Co-written and directed by Ida Lupino. 1950. Uncommon. Exceptional. Ida Lupino is a giant. Hopefully people realize that, female directors, like, arguably, yes, champion that now, as it's important, but it's not new. 1950. So this is an amazing movie. It's uncomfortable. At the beginning of the movie, the character is raped. She's assaulted and raped, and then it traces the consequences of how that impacts her life moving forward. It goes into some melodrama and some stuff like that just because of when it was made, but it was so groundbreaking and so cutting edge. Like 12 days before they were going to shoot. I'm trying to think who the distributor for this was, who the studio for this was. RKO. That's right. It's an RKO picture. They made them cut every reference to the word rape. They made them cut, quote, sexual assault out of the script. So they have to call it, she was attacked. She was assaulted. It was a criminal act. But we all know what's going on. And this is a movie that a lot of people champion because it's just so ballsy at a time when you did not get that. You got very, think about the production code, the Hays Code, the crackdown on what you could and could not do. It's powerful, man. 2K scan of the original negative by Paramount Pictures and an audio commentary by film critic Alexandra Heller-Nicholas. Here's our two pieces of artwork. I should say these outer slipcovers are limited to the first pressing. Not everything gets a second pressing, but these are always limited to the first pressing. So if you like these nice cardboard slipcovers, you don't want to miss out on those. And you know what? I should also show you the interior. Every imprint title has the interior art wrap as well. So I'll show you that, and I'll go back to the Parallax View and show you that as well before we move on. Okay, so we've already done this. Show you the back, and then inside, because I know the collectible aspect is important here. I just got excited about the movies and just launched right into talking about the movies, but got to talk about the collectible aspect as well because they do go hand in hand. Okay, next up, The Naked Jungle. I was so excited when this was announced. I never thought that we would get The Naked Jungle on Blu-ray, and it would be so loaded with goodies. Charlton Heston in the 50s, during this time period, made a couple of jungle set adventures. We have Secret of the Incas, and we have The Naked Jungle. Both of those are influences on Indiana Jones. There are ants, like kind of giant ants, that factor into the plot of this. It's not a monster movie. It's a drama. It's a character piece. But there's a threat of ants in the jungle. And I think that shows up directly in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which, of course, is set in the 1950s. This stuff is hugely influential on these filmmakers. Spielberg, George Lucas. These are the stuff. This is what they were watching. So, It's Charlton Heston. Eleanor Parker gets top billing, as she should. This is her movie, and she is amazing in this movie. She gives an exceptional performance here. Let me hold this up while I talk about the special features. So it's a 1080p transfer. We've got an audio commentary by Barry Forshaw and Kim Newman. Another audio commentary by film historians Lee Pfeiffer and Paul Scrabo. And a third audio commentary by George Powell biographer Justin Humphreys and author film historian C. Courtney Joyner. We've got Charlton Heston For All Seasons documentary. We have 3 radio adaptations of this story. Escape, Leiningen versus the Ants, from 1949. Lux Radio Theater, The Naked Jungle from 1954. That's Charlton Heston with Donna Reed in the Eleanor Parker role. And Suspense, Leaningen versus the Ants, starring William Conrad from 1957. And the theatrical trailer as well. So this is loaded. And for me, this comes highly recommended from me if you like what I like. And again, this entire wave just spoke to me, you know. I love Imprint because the movies are always exceptional. They're so well curated. But this one, more than any other, it was just like, wow. Wow. It's like they were reading my wish list, you know? The Country Girl. An amazing... Grace Kelly won an Oscar for this movie. I believe the screenwriter won an Oscar for this as well. Bing Crosby, Grace Kelly, William Holden. This is a few years after Sunset Boulevard. William Holden is a theater producer, and he wants to cast his new musical extravaganza for the stage. He says in the movie, he's like, if we're going to get people to pay their $6.60, we got to have a star. Something like, I'm paraphrasing, but that was like, a theater ticket was $6.60 in 1954. And so enter Bing Crosby as an alcoholic, washed up, suicidal. Sorry, it's Bing Crosby, right? You're like, but he's so funny with Bob Hope in the road movies. This is a very dark movie. It's a dark picture. But it's fantastic. And so Bing Crosby is married to Grace Kelly. He tells William Holden that Grace Kelly is holding him back. She seems like a shrew. William Holden is like, I don't like women that have opinions. I like them to be quiet. But there's more than meets the eye there. It is a tremendous film. Again, award-winning film. So, and I'll also say this is 54, right? And Grace Kelly became Princess of Monaco in 1956. She married the Prince of Monaco a couple of years later and never acted again, really. That was it for her career. And it's so almost like, hooray, she became a princess, right? But we lost one of our great performers. And there's something kind of bittersweet about that. Yes, we've got the movies, we've got the Hitchcock stuff, we've got, To Catch a Thief and all these things. But one of the great actors of our time was removed from the table. Fascinating story. So here's the artworks. And the special features are 1080p presentation, audio commentary by professor and film scholar Jason A. Ney. Grace Kelly, The American Princess. That's a documentary. If memory serves, it's about 59 minutes long. The theatrical trailer and a photo gallery. Classy movie. Great. Oh, the songs are written by Gershwin too. You know, no slouch there. They're written by Gershwin. Look at this. It's great. Great stuff. If you like inside baseball sort of things, you know, if you like Sunset Boulevard and you're not familiar with The Country Girl, you got to check it out. House of Cards. More Peppard. You know, I was thinking about this. I was like, it's been a great, I'm going to say year. It's really been the last year to 18 months for George Peppard fans. The popular stuff was always well represented. Breakfast at Tiffany's, you know, we've had that for a while. But all of his 60s stuff, even into the 70s stuff, like it was just not well represented on disc. And I'm just like, I was like, and we've got like 6 George Peppard movies in the last year. And then I was like, oh no, wait a minute. So we got like, it was Operation Crossbow, and there was the Carpetbaggers, and then there was PJ, and then there was the Ground Star Conspiracy, and then there was, and I came up with like, it's like the better part of a dozen George Peppard movies in the last like 12 to 18 months. There's not a lot left. There's only a handful of 60s and 70s movies for Peppard. And then he would go to TV, right? You know, all the stuff he did on television. A-Team, Banachek, all that stuff. But it's been wonderful to get all these movies on Blu-ray, and this is another one that we get to add to the shelf now, to the collection. So it's a 1968 movie. It co-stars Inger Stevens. It's weird, and I don't even know that it works. Again, whether it works or not, like that's not the point. As I said this in Classic Film Flavors episode 1, it's the new series I'm doing with Vanessa, where we talk about, you know, older movies. Whether something is good or bad, or it works or it fails, that is beside the point to me at this point in my film fandom. I just want to see how this movie was acted, how it was shot, how it was directed. This is a George Peppard performance. So get this. Dig this, cats. So he's a boxer, like a down on his luck boxer. and they're in France. And on the way home from this boxing match, they get shot at in the car. Him and his handler guy, I guess he's like his manager, and his friend. They get shot at. So he runs out of the car. He's like, somebody's shooting at us. So this boxer like chases this guy down, and it's a kid with a gun. So they take the kid to his house. Turns out he's a rich kid, and they live in this mansion, and it's this highly influential European family that entered the drama, right, of where all this is going. But so Inger Stevens is his mom, and she's like, why don't I want you to be his tutor? He respects you, like, because Peppard is no nonsense, right? He's like, you shot at me, I want an apology. And so the kid's like, I'm so sorry, I shot at you. He's like, and Inger Stevens is like, you should be his tutor. So he becomes the kid's tutor. So we've gone from a boxer, almost an assassination, now he's the tutor, and then he uncovers this huge like Machiavellian plot to overthrow. Like, it gets murky and muddy, and I don't know that the movie does a great job at sticking to, like, relaying the plot. Orson Welles comes in, which is fascinating. I think he's in like 3 scenes, but he's an important figure in the movie. And then you get this international, like, they move from France to Italy, like the action picks up in Italy. The climactic battle, there's a battle, the climactic thing takes place at the Colosseum, inside the Colosseum. And so through all of this, I'm like, this is so strange. It's this surreal, just kind of drifting from scene into scene, and like, so what is going on here? But that is, of course, the reason to watch it, because it's name me another George Peppard movie with a climax in the Colosseum that also stars Orson Welles and Inger Stevens, and feels influenced by James Bond, but is also about a boxer. Like, there's nothing else like that. It's just unique. So I don't even know I don't even know if I like it or not, but I do like it. I don't know if it's good or not. That's the thing. But I think I do like it. I just have to recognize that I don't think it succeeds at what it's trying to do, but it does succeed in being entertaining and watchable. And as a Peppard fan, I gather there's people are kind of mixed on Peppard. I saw some reviews where they were kind of bad-mouthing Peppard. I think he's great. I love George Peppard. He would struggle to be that A-list actor. Movies like this, he is the lead actor, but he would kind of struggle to maintain that status, and I don't think he did, which is why he went to television. But it's a fascinating decade or so of film, more than that. But anyway, so here's our pieces of artwork here. Show you the reverse covers. I love this. I absolutely love this artwork. Looks like a pulp novel, which is fitting. Again, this is based on a novel too, I believe. So 1080p transfer from Universal. Audio commentary by film historian Scott Harrison. Theatrical trailer, isolated music and effects audio track, and then a photo gallery. And show you the disc and that interior artwork. Inger Stevens would tragically pass a couple of years after this. I think 70, somewhere in there. She was no longer with us as well. It's time capsules. Time capsules, man. We have 3 more here. Lady in a Cage from 1964. It's Olivia de Havilland trapped in an elevator, and it's adapted from a play, of course. And if you watch the movie, you're like, yeah, that's a play. Olivia de Havilland gives this huge performance. I mean, it is way too much, but of course that's part of the appeal. Here she is in the elevator. The cage of the title. She was caged in a nightmare of greed, bestiality, and murder. So here's the premise of this movie. So she's hurt her hip. She had a hip replacement surgery. And she's got this elevator. She's very wealthy. She's a poet. She's living in this house. She's had this elevator installed so she doesn't have to take the stairs with her new hip until she heals. So she's got her cane. Her son, I think he's 30. I think they make a point that he's 30 in the movie. He's headed out. And so he leaves. She's on the way up. She's gone down to get a snack or whatever. She's on the way back up. She gets almost to the top. Power goes out. She's stuck in the elevator. So it's what happens in the elevator in the house, because she's not alone. People discover that there's a lady trapped in a cage. And so these street toughs enter and they want to rob the place blind, but it goes to murder. It gets crazy. James Caan in his first, it says introducing James Caan. It's his first movie role. And he's already good, right? It's that, you feel like it's the influence of Brando. James Dean, Brando, it's that style, that very realistic, that naturalistic style of acting. You can really see what I perceive to be a Brando influence on James Caan. But it's a fascinating movie, and Olivia de Havilland is just like screaming poetry. Oh, well, I tell you, you've got to get out of this house, I tell you. I just keep waiting for her to yell, cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war, but she never does. Christopher Plummer was just probably just like, yes, very well done, very well done. Because he's a similar, one of those big stage Shakespearean acting, those kind of things. But I gotta tell you, by the end of I watched it with Bree and we were like, this is crazy. By the end of the movie, I was like, Olivia de Havilland, ladies and gentlemen, whoa, so good, so good. She's by the end of the movie, she's crawling on her hands and knees. She's been injured. She's covered in, it is, I'm not spoiling, it's crazy. And it's what we call, you hear people go like, what a brave performance. It really is a brave performance. She had to have been in her 50s, I guess, crawling around in a nightgown on the floor while James Caan is doing nasty things in your house. It's great. So again, Imprint just hitting me right where I live. It's like they were reading my mail, man. So here's the artwork for that. So we got 1080p high definition transfer, audio commentary by film critics Kim Newman and Barry Forshaw, audio commentary by film critic Kat Ellinger, a reprehensible film video essay by Chris O'Neill, and the theatrical trailer. What happens in this elevator is not for the weak. It is perhaps not even for the strong. So, get me out of here! All right, so here's the disc art, and here's James Caan doing his thing, terrorizing. Is he showing up? Trying to get the glare off of it. There he is. Got the pantyhose mask over his face. It's really good. Very 60s. I keep waiting for someone to... Olivia de Havilland has these little asides, and it's almost like beat poetry. She's like, elevator, stuck. The man on the stairs. It doesn't really do that, but it's kind of like that. Oh man, Kitten with a Whip. This is release number 100. What a great pick for number 100. Kitten with a Whip. Guess what? I've already written a review for this too. I'm planning on publishing this review at the same time this video goes up, or maybe later in the day. So check out CerealAtMidnite.com for that review. I love this movie. It's a juvenile delinquent movie. It's a youth gone wild movie. It's an exploitation movie dressed up like a legit drama from Universal, but it's more subversive than that. So it's Ann-Margret, the same year, just a matter of months after Viva Las Vegas with Elvis. And of course, she had been a star on the rise with Bye Bye Birdie, Viva Las Vegas. Then this comes along, and this is just a showcase for bad girl Ann-Margret. She has escaped from a reform school, and she traps John Forsythe in her web. John Forsythe is an aspiring political figure. John Forsythe, I know from Bachelor Father, which is a TV show from the 50s and the early 60s, that it's currently airing again on one of the antenna channels. I think it's Antenna TV, but I'm not sure. If you're in the U.S. Bachelor Father, I don't think it ever got a DVD release. John Forsythe is the voice of Charlie on Charlie's Angels. Good morning, Angels. That's John Forsythe. And so he is the guy. He's a well-respected father, husband, and Ann-Margret shows up in his daughter's bed. And he's like, well, I'll help her. She's helpless. She's supposed to be 17. She's not, but in the movie, she's 17, but Ann-Margret was in her 20s. She's helpless. She's like, help me. I need help. I'm so alone. I'm so scared. And then the minute things don't go her way, she turns into this monster. She's a juvenile delinquent. She's like, I'll ruin you. I'll ruin you. So he is now forced to help her do bad things. It ends up in Tijuana, and there's everything you could want from a juvenile delinquent movie. The special features on here, again, check out the review, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. I had so much to say in that review, but It is, if you put it in the grand scheme of the juvenile delinquent cycle, you look at the Corman movies of the 50s, translating into, I consider this a bridge between the Corman movies, those like, you know, Hot Rod Girl and, you know, the Youth Gone Wild movies that Corman was making his name in the 50s, with the Chrome and Hot Leather and, you know, the Wild Angels. What do we want to do? We want to get loaded. We want to, you know, that kind of a thing. Al Adamson was going to making some of these movies too. I consider this kind of a bridge between those because it's a universal picture, so it's got higher prestige. It's shot really well, high pedigree. Okay, let me look at this, guys. 1080p presentation, audio commentary by film critics Alexandra Heller-Nicholas and Josh Nelson. Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill: The Rise of Delinquent Girls in Film, a video essay by historian Kat Ellinger. And She Reached for Evil, Dissecting Kitten with a Whip. That's a video essay on pulp author Wade Miller by author and film historian Andrew Nettie, and a photo gallery. They really do trace the Youth Gone Wild and juvenile delinquent, the books that started as kind of a pulp, you know, Rebel Without a Cause, that hit it in theaters, and then you get all these books, these pulpy paperbacks, lurid paperbacks about, you know, of course, it's titillation, it's exploitation, and then how that further influenced the movie scene. This is a strong contender for my favorite from the entire batch, the entire wave. But then there's this to contend with, which is, it might be a tie, because Last Train from Gun Hill is an incredible movie. This is John Sturges. I just wrote a review for The Great Escape. And I was talking about how The Great Escape is a John Sturges movie that doesn't have a lot of John Sturges' economy. He was so good. Bad Day at Black Rock. There's so many of his movies, especially this one, they're so economic. They start immediately. It's like a paperback novel, right? It's that I have such appreciation and admiration for things that don't waste my time, things that do what they're going to do and then just move on. I love that. So immediate, so urgent. Every frame matters. Every second matters. And that's this movie. This is John Sturges working at the peak of his power, doing what I think he does best. Kirk Douglas is, I don't know how much I want to say about this. It's a cracking little Western about revenge and justice. And Kirk Douglas is a righteous man with a quest that we are on board with. Anthony Quinn is the other man. He's the villain, but he's like Magneto, right? He's an understandable villain. We know where he's coming from. We understand his motivations. They are former friends who are pitted against each other. Kirk Douglas finds himself in Gun Hill looking for somebody, and there's one train out at the end of the night. He's got to be on the last train from Gun Hill. It is wonderful. It is so good. Now, this is in the U.S. This came out from Paramount Presents. If you're in Australia and you're like, well, you know, I didn't know if I want to import that. So the Paramount Presents has a Leonard Maltin feature. That's here. We got the Leonard Maltin feature. Filmmaker focus, Leonard Maltin on Last Train from Gun Hill. We've also got an audio commentary by film historian Stephen Prince. I don't think the Paramount Presents has a commentary. It's just the Leonard Maltin doohickey. So this has that and the commentary. I adore this movie. I'll show you the back. I don't remember. Look at that, Kirk Douglas. I mean, this is so good. 1959. There is something about 50s Westerns they're just electric. Working at the peak of the genre's powers with the cinematography and the writers and the resources, it just as good as it can be. So guys, that's it. But you know what? I think because I was able to watch all of these, you've probably got notes, right? You're like, well, I gotta check that out. You know what's for you, right? But I'm so grateful that I had some time to dig into these before we actually talked about them, because you can see what watching the movies actually does. It's so great to be able to watch this stuff before I come to you. Normally I don't have that luxury because Imprint is so rare. They're so sought after. They sell out like that. But I was able to cram these, and I'm so glad that I did. What's your favorite? Which ones are you going to pick up? Thank you so much for hanging out. Remember, all of these Imprint titles have been covered at Serial. In the playlist, we got the playlist with every Imprint title covered. and reviews at CerealAtMidnite.com. So don't forget to check out all those places. Guys, thank you so much. Let's continue the conversation about these movies in the comments below. Again, these movies live with us. They're not just on our shelves. The conversations about these matters so much. So let's talk about them. Guys, thank you so much. Take care. Until next time, here's where to go and what to do.